Hey, my name's James Nicholson. Welcome to my YouTube channel. I've got a last update on the Renters' Rights Bill. Next week, the Renters' Rights Bill goes to report stage on July the 1st. But there's two amendments that are being tabled on this. One of them isn't so bad. One of them is something that I think if you're a landlord, you really want to understand how this works, because this could impact you. I'm going to talk about who's tabling this, and they're getting support obviously from charities and some activists to get this through. And is this something we should worry about? Is this another nail in the coffin for landlords, or is it something that's just all much ado about nothing? I'll let you guys decide in the comments below. So I do want to get your feedback and input on this video. Let me know if you think this is something landlords should really be worried about. Now, if you're new around here and you haven't done already, do make sure you subscribe to the channel over there and hit that bell notification. We're on the way to 44,000 subscribers. We've got all the latest update on the Renters' Rights Bill, house prices, interest rates, and much, much more. And let's get some views on this video. How do we do that? Simple. Smash like, tickle like, do something to the like button. That really helps with the YouTube algorithm, and that really has helped the channel grow. So the Renters' Rights Bill has moved through pretty quickly, I feel, this year. Labour came into power last year. They changed the old Renters' Bill to the Renters' Rights Bill. But still, it had the things in there that worried landlords considerably. The Section 21 being removed is probably the biggest fear that landlords have. Now, these tabled amendments aren't anything to do with the Section 21 or the pets. They're quite different, actually. And so this is the Renters' Rights Bill. If you want more details on the Renters' Rights Bill, I've made an ebook, which I'll link below. So do check out that. In fact, what I'll do is I'll pin it in the first comment. I think 2,000 landlords have taken a copy of that now. Gives you all the details on what's proposed in the bill and what you can do about it, basically. I think it's important to really understand how it works. So who's talking about this? Who's got these tabled proposals? There's a Lib Dem called Lord Shipley. Surely he's a landlord with a name like that. So yeah, Lord Shipley is proposing two things. So I'll talk about the first one. They're both to do with selective licensing. Selective licensing, if you don't know what that is, I've literally this morning just been down to Hastings to get a valuation on one of my properties there. And at that in Hastings, they have selective licensing, and you pay 600 quid, I think it is. And it can last for a year or 5 years. And if you get it for 5 years, they ask you these ridiculous questions like, are you a fit and proper person? No one really checks you out. You say, are you basically a good landlord? Is your property okay? You pay your 600 quid, and nobody has ever looked at my property. And this has been going on for like 10 years. I've got two properties in Hastings, and I've got licenses on both. No one's ever looked at either of them, ever. So I just think it's an absolute, just a revenue generating scheme by the council. Now, it seems that councils only can have selective licensing for 5 years, and then they've got to apply to the government to get that extended, which the government is always going to give them. So they can extend now to 10 years. That's not a problem for landlord. Like, that isn't a problem. But this next one might be a little bit more complicated for you guys. And so what they're saying is they're kind of agreeing with what I just told you there. So my experience, so I invest in Hastings, Dorking, one in London, and Doncaster. And I don't have selective licensing in any other place apart from Hastings. And as I said, my experience is I pay my fee, I get my license, and it's all ridiculous to me. I don't think it brings up the quality of the property because they don't know what it's like inside. It could be horrendous. It's not. It's had a full refurb. You can see that on this channel. A couple of years ago on that house in Hastings, I showed you all the back to brick refurb that we did, so you can check that out. But yeah, it's ridiculous. They're just taking your money. So what Lord Shipley is saying is that with any selective license going forward, that the properties need an inspection. So he's saying that you need to open up your property, you need to get the council in, and they will go round the property and they will check if there's any issues. I mean, they do ask you, to be fair, they do ask you a few things, but you can't let a property without this anyway for an estate agent. They ask for your electrical report, they ask for your gas safe report, that's about it. And if your gas safe expires, you don't have to update them. Like, it's ridiculous. So what Lord Shipley is saying is, when you get your licence and you apply for it, someone should physically come out to your property. And this does make sense, but this is going to worry more landlords, right? This is going to be something that some landlords are like, this isn't great. Because anytime you get the council round, they can overreact about certain things. And they could come round and they could say, wow, that isn't safe. That's something that is safe, but they overreact on it and could force you to do improvements on your property and put an improvement notice on your property. I have had something similar to that, which nearly happened to me in Hastings. So it was about 15 years ago on this same house that I've got there, where Hastings Council sent me a letter saying, you've got to paint your house. And I was like, what? You've got to paint your house? And in the terrace that is in, they're all different colours. They're all like random colours. There's a purple one, a green one, a white one, a cream one. They're all different colours. And so I thought, well, I rung them up and I said, what do you mean I've got to paint it? Some of the others on that terrace are in horrendous condition. My render's all in decent condition. And it probably could have just done with a pressure wash. And it would have looked a little bit better, but they were like, no, you've got to physically get it painted, or we're going to fine you £10,000. I said, is anyone else doing this in the terrace? They said, we can't tell you that. Data protection it was back then, before the GDPR stuff came out. And so they forced me to get it painted, which cost me about $5,000 back then. And I just felt it was just a waste of money. It's on a main road, so lorries going up and down the road, it gets exhaust on it. And what also really frustrated me is nobody else painted theirs. Not one other person. And maybe that's because they were owner-occupiers and I was a landlord. Maybe that's why we got picked on there, because of that. But what I'm saying is, when you get them round your house to do your selective license and they're ticking stuff, you could get more bills, and that could be a problem for landlords. But I also do agree that that is more likely to improve the rental stock. I do think that's right. So I do think that if you get a selective license and you go through all the rigmarole, that you are going to improve the quality of that property if the council is going to go round. Now, I don't have that problem because I always refurbish the properties that I get. But there are some bad landlords that have never had an inspection. And I think that would definitely give them an incentive to get out the market maybe. And that could be a rogue landlord gone that stops causing problems for other landlords. But what I also think is, when you see councils talking about, so a London borough a few weeks ago got selective licensing in, it's about 700 quid there. And they say they make zero money on it. Like, it's impossible that you make zero money on it, because people just fill in a form on a website and give you money. You don't even do anything. So if they're going to inspect the property, if they say that you paying them money on a website doesn't make them any money, if they go and inspect the property, I think that they will increase the cost of the selective license. So this is an amendment that's tabled. I think it might get looked at with seriousness. So we'll see what happens next week. I'll make a video on once we get to the report stage. Make sure you grab the ebook. Let me know on your experiences with selective license. Do you think this is a bad thing? I'd love to know all your comments and feedback. Do like the video, do subscribe, and check out all the other videos as well on the channel, including this video right here.